But now you don't have to wait for Chris for 3 months to update the website. Chris is a little pissed about that.
All right.
Sweet.
And truth be told,
I'd like to call the Energy, Environment, and Land Use Committee meeting. And is there anybody for courtesy of the floor? Seeing nobody. Tara, our chair, Ms. Zirinsky, our chair, will be a little late, so we'll go down to discussion regarding Mincy Lake. Brian, if you want to.
Good evening.
Yeah, there he is.
I brought a nice stomach thing with me. Gotta love that water.
All right, so before I get started on the grant applications, I want to give a little bit of background of our grants that we've been awarded, where we're at, and for just a quick outline of all of this. Over roughly the past 5 years now, we've contributed about $1.5 million of county funds towards park rec open space grants, and we've doubled our money more than that. We've been awarded almost $3.3 million. So the money that we're putting in for these projects, total 11 different projects, we're definitely getting our return on our investment. Just this past year, in 2022, I'm sure you've heard, we were awarded $1.254 million for 3 different projects. We have the Norbath Trail East Extension, which will go from Jacksonville Road and it'll finally connect into the borough of Bath. We were awarded $300,000 from DCNR on that grant. We have a $300,000 grant for phase 1 of the Gulf Farm development. And we were awarded $654,000 for the Two Rivers Trail, which match a TASA grant. So really, there's no county funds except the engineering and things that we've done in the past for construction on that section of the Two Rivers Trail. So we've been really, really good about getting grants in, not using all county money for our projects. And that's why some of the areas that you see under capital projects or even in the budgets more reflect income coming in from revenue for grants, and then these projects are able to get done that way as well. So with that, we have an opportunity really right now that we don't normally have in a normal year. PA Department of Conservation and Natural Resources allocated a lot of money. I forget what it was, 20 or $30 million or so from ARPA funds into DCNR for additional grant rounds this year. So there's a grant round that's open in October. Those 3 that I mentioned were the ones that we applied for in April. We normally don't hear about that until this time of the year. Those were awarded in September. What we're doing now is taking our opportunity to get more of those ARPA funds through DCNR. There's a deadline of October 27th that we're going to be applying for 3 different grants. Well, two different grants, sorry. But first, the county's already put in an application for an LSA grant for the Mincy Lake Spillway Bridge. This was part of our first 2018 DCNR grant that we were awarded $300,000 for the first recreational rehab project. Fast forward 4 years, costs have escalated. Engineering didn't really time out with general services and fish and boat when the dam was being risen and the spillway was being put on. So we're at a point really where we're starting the project over. We've talked to fish and boat, what's the outline, how do we make this work? And this resolution's an accompaniment to the grant that has already been applied for. But we're requesting a full project cost of $395,000. There was $20,000 from CDBG that was awarded, and Friends of Mincy Lake are putting up $30,000 of funds that they've raised privately through sponsorships and donations as well. So that's the first part of the overall Eastern Shore development of the Mincy Lake. What we're doing with our 2018 funds, we're purchasing the 2 pit toilets for both sides of the lake, East and West Shore. We're going to be doing the picnic grove on the West Shore, the walkways, all ADA accessible fishing piers access on the east or the west and the south shore jetties. So really, we're taking all the money from 2018 and dumping it into construction on the west and the south shore areas. The east shore is what we're going to be applying for right now. There's normally a cap of $300,000 through DCNR. This year, this special round in October, there's no cap. So what we're hoping for is that we're going to take that LSA money, we're going to try to match it with this DCNR money for a full amount of practically purchasing and putting in the spillway bridge without county funds. The solar lighting, the ADA accessible pathways, fishing access, and additional picnic areas on the east shore would be the additional funds. Now, we can still use the $20,000 from CDBG, the $30,000 from Friends of Mincy Lake as match toward this grant, which puts it down about $50,000 for a county request. But you can see about $430,000 is what we're going to be applying from the county as a request. There's additional grant rounds coming up for fish and boat. We're really trying to be proactive and take a step in a direction to get as much funds in this year for this project while the iron's hot. There's a lot of extra funds out there for grant opportunities. So this is why we're trying to put this one in the forefront, really knock Mincy out of the park and get that one done overall instead of dragging it out for years to come. So the DCNR request will be for almost $480,000. It's not the county request. We have a $50,000 less because of some of the other funds that are already going to be in place. So it's nearly over $950,000 project. If we get both of these grants in, and we have the money to do what we're doing right now with the 2018 DCNR grant funds, Mincy Lake will be completely ADA accessible. There'll be pathways from east to west shore for the first time ever over 160-foot spillway bridge. There'll be 2 new picnic grove areas, all ADA accessible. There'll be 3 fishing piers that are accessible and 1 kayak launch that is accessible. So I think the first $500,000 that we put in a couple years ago, back in 2018, to do the plan for the overall greenway and the money to get this project started with that first 2018 grant has really shown its potential. So that's the 2 DCNR, or the 1 DCNR grant and the LSA grant that has the resolutions that are up for consideration. Questions?
Just a real quick comment. I think, 2 things. That's excellent that the Friends of Mincy Lake is throwing money. I think at any time we can get the community involved and, capital is great. Is there any way to track usage up there? Is there any way to do that, or just, I'm kind of curious if usage has picked up. I imagine it slowed down a lot when we drained the lake and did the work. Has that come back?
I think it's kind of a twofold. So I was up there a little bit ago and I did ask that question, and from our staff being up there as our maintenance staff up there and some of the Friends of Mincy Lake groups that are all there pretty much all the time, the fishing population has gotten back to kind of normal, maybe dropped off a little bit with some of the trees and shrubs that have grown up when it was down. But the birding, the photography, and all those other things that we haven't seen up there has exploded. So I think there's an increase of overall general use of the area and not just specifically for boating and fishing anymore.
I would say perfect.
Yeah, it is.
I'm just looking at the underneath grant applications. It has county funds 429. So your hopes are that we don't even have to use those $429,000 of county money?
That's my hope, but we have to say that we have the money in hand to apply for the grant.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So on your agenda, there's actually another resolution. It's for the Louise Moore Park turf conversion, and this was a kind of a new program that DCNR added this year for this October round, was really to convert turf for maintenance costs, to cut down on more environmentally friendly ecosystems. We're hoping that they're going to do this again in the spring and future, but there's a minimal amount that we have to get to, which is $50,000. And to do that just at Louise Moore Park, we've been trying to figure that out over the past 3 weeks, having good conversations with DCNR Bureau of Recreation and Conservation. They had brought their forestry department in. We were looking at some of those large areas that are turf grass right now to convert them to maybe clover or wild strawberry, or they have a host of other different types of grasses. We're not going to get up to that 50,000, plan it out correctly, and do something that we feel good about. So I want to pull that resolution for consideration, and I let Linda know about that. We'll take the winter to kind of figure out that. We already are looking at more at the golf farm over at Wayne Grube. If we had some more time, we'd definitely be able to probably get up to that commitment. But to get it in when they released this grant back in September, to get it ready for in October, we just don't have the time. So we're gonna do it right and kind of think about it more over the winter.
I know you're pulling the resolution, but can you just explain the benefits of having clover or natural growing wildflowers there instead of just the turf grass?
Sure. So, I mean, first off, it's going to cut back on using our mowers and gas. Our maintenance costs should go down. But the environmental side, there's that no mow May that they call, where they let it grow, clover, you have dandelions in your yard. It's just the overall pollinator, better for bees, wildlife, anywhere from birds to turkey to deer. So what we're trying to do really overall in our entire park system is to manage the ecosystem better. And past practices have been past practices, and things change, but we're really looking at how do we look at forestry? How do we look at our grounds we have miles and miles of stream and river where our properties are. How do we look at the next 50 to 80 to 100 years, planning those types of things out instead of looking at, no offense, but a pickleball court or a soccer field, where we feel those are more dependent on a municipal complex. And that's where we have our Livable Landscapes grants to help out with those types of things. So those are the resolutions that I had. So if you guys don't have any other questions, those. Sure. Oh.
Thanks. Hey.
Chair may take.
Hi, Tara.
Hey, how are y'all doing? Thanks so much. I'm sorry I'm late. Traffic in the valley. Go ahead.
To let you know, we went over the Mincy Lake County Park,
Okay,
went over the, Leesmore Park turf conversion,
okay.
and Brian said that resolution will be pulled from tonight's agenda.
Why?
There's a minimum ask because it's a special round through DCNR that they're doing in October this year. They're normally an April deadline for a 1-year grant application. That's $50,000.
For the Lake Mincy?
No, for the Louise Moore turf grass conversion.
Oh, we're already on number 4.
Yes,
Wow,
I
this
can.
meeting went quick. I thought you were gonna, what?
We didn't know if you had anything.
No, the report on Penn Environment, okay, okay. Deep breath, right?
Do you want me to jump back and talk about the Mincy ones real quick to get you up to speed?
I would totally appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
So about a month ago, back in the summer, Governor Wolf put a lot of money back into DCNR for a whole host of things, including grants. So they opened up a special round in October that they're due October 27th, actually, next Thursday, for an additional round of rec park, open space, trails, preservation, their normal grant round. They opened up a special round for this, with the stipulation of $100,000 minimum on construction, acquisition, and $50,000 on environmental resource improvements. So we had some of these that we were pushing to next year anyway. With this grant round, we're kind of hoping we can get this money in this year and start sooner.
Oh, okay.
What we're doing at Mincy, the 2018 grant that we had, with costs rising, not being able to get things, and just overall some administrative things between state, us, and everyone, it didn't all work out. Prices increased. So we took the eastern portion of development mostly out of it. We're focusing on the west and the south shore, and then the 2 pit toilets on east shore and west shore as well. So that'll be paid for from that 2018 DCNR grant that we originally were awarded for $300,000. What we're looking at doing now is this LSA grant what we're applying for from the LSA grant is a full grant application for the funding of the spillway bridge, which will include engineering, design, permitting, fabrication, installation, everything. So we've put that forth already. The grant was due prior to this meeting, but they've allowed for us to approve the resolution for the funds to pretty much to apply for the grant. So that's what the LSA grant application is for the Mincy Lake Spillway Bridge. The East Shore development that we pretty much took out of that 2018, we're gonna refocus in on this one. We're doing all of the ADA walkways in here. We're making the trail connection from the restroom and the parking area to the new spillway bridge, and we're including the spillway bridge in this grant. What our hope is that with the funds from the LSA grant and this new DCNR grant, if we get both, really the county should not have to put up much, if any, money towards the rest of the development of the project.
Oh, really?
We're hoping to match the $395 from the LSA grant. If that gets fully funded, we're matching it with DCNR funds. So if it does get fully funded from LSA, we're gonna have additional funds in this East Shore development one that we can use fully for that.
So you're allowed to match funds
Oh,
with other?
yes, we can
grants?
match 3, 4
Why haven't
different
we
ways
done
at
this more
times.
often?
We do, and I mean, Wildlands has been great with helping us on like our stream restorations ones. We get DEP grants for engineering, then we turn around, and those are 20% match, I think. Then we turn around and we get a stream restoration project, and we match it with DCNR, and we're not really funding anything out of those types of things. So
Awesome.
they're excellent on those types of projects, and we're using that same philosophy on development. So that's where we're at with that.
Great. Okay, good.
And then I was mentioning that the Louise Moore one, the grant round was awarded or was announced back in September or late October or late August, September timeframe. And it's something that we've thought about, but to get up to that $50,000 threshold, we're not there. And I mean, we had some good conversations with the Bureau of Recreation and Conservation. Their forestry department got involved. They came up with a list of native different low-growing grasses and things like that. But I don't feel comfortable enough trying to rush that through when we could take more time and look at other avenues of funding, and as well as DCNR possibly in the spring of '23 to do more, and maybe other parks as well.
Okay. Spring 2023 sounds so far away, but
They're already having their grant webinars in November, so it's
Really?
not that far.
okay, great. That's awesome. Thank you for backtracking a little bit.
Sure.
Appreciate that. Are there any other questions? No, there's just me. All right, great. Do you want to move on to number 4 then, where you were?
Yeah, sure. And just to give you one more, one that council already did approve was the Benarchak grant resolution. We had that approved, I think it was August or July sometime in that timeframe. And we put it forth with our April application, but everything got moved forward so fastly, it didn't make that April round. So we're going to be applying for it in the October round. We already have the resolution that you guys have passed for that. We're applying for $236,000 and $236,100, which practically will pay all of our soft costs and our match. So really, the donation that the Mausers have given, that 3/4, 75% donation, is being our match for a DCNR grant. We're applying for the rest of that 236, so really we're kind of getting it for free.
That's awesome.
So it's great when we have willing landowners that are willing to do those types of things, and we have other additional funding that we can go after to do that.
That's great.
So hopefully we should find out in end of the year, early year of '23 if these are awarded as well. I've mentioned that we were awarded 1.254 already this year for 3 different DCNR grants. So we've been really successful, and really happy about with our staff writing the grants and ministering it and getting really good projects together too.
Have we ever not been awarded a grant that we applied for?
I think there was once or twice.
That's it? Good job, good record.
Thanks.
You feel pretty confident in we're getting grants, right?
Knock on wood.
DCNR ones, I'm pretty confident. I don't know about the LSA ones. They get a little bit more political. They're run through CFA, so it's not as, I'm not sure how much money's out there in that world and all of that, but being a quick turnaround and having the plans in place that we have, the cost estimates in place, pretty much all of the engineering done, we're shovel ready just about. And that's where these types of projects will rank very high. The collaboration with Fish and Boat, as we lease the land, they run the lake. It's one of 2 public-owned fishing lakes in the county, 3 in the Lehigh Valley. So we have all of these major things going for us, and I feel confident that we're set up well for it.
Great.
What's the other county lake what's the other lake in the county?
East Bangor Dam is a fish and boat one. And Leaser Lake is we call it our sister lake over in Lehigh County.
Yeah.
So if we were awarded these other 3 grants really, we would be bringing in another over $1 million in grant funds this year. So more than 2.3-ish million dollars. If we fully get all of those grants, we'll have a very successful year and really set us up for the future.
That's awesome. All right.
So I just have a couple updates and I think that's number 4. I'm
So, it's Louise Moore?
Oh,
County Park
that,
Turf
yeah.
Conversation.
That's the resolution that we were hoping to not do for tonight. We're gonna
So
pull
we're
that
not-
one.
So we're
Right.
postponing that, we're striking that from the
Yes.
list? Okay.
Yeah. That was literally a last minute conversation between yesterday and this morning with DCNR and trying to figure out costs. Even if we contracted it out, could we do it? I don't feel confident enough. I don't want to put it through just to make more work on us if we don't really have a good product.
Okay. So then you have updates from Parks and Recreation, eh?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been really busy. I'm glad I've been able to see many of you out at some events and things throughout our park system here. Give you an update on our Norbath Trail. We're just about finishing up on our 5 miles of rehab. That was actually a DCNR grant that we were awarded as well. They're doing the 3 bridge replacements, well, rehabs right now, the decking's in. They're waiting for the fencing company, and then they'll be able to relay the trail surfacing in between that. And I know there's a lot of users that are itching to get back into it. We're getting phone calls left and right, but that's where we're at with that. We're working right now with the Bath Borough Authority to gain a trail easement and really lock down the meets and bounds, the exact survey from Mill Street where the SOAR plant is out towards Keystone where our property ends. We have a meeting over there Monday to really walk the site and relay it out, but I'm pretty confident by the end of the year we'll have that finished, and we might even have that to you by November for adoption for the easement.
Great.
And that's actually one of the this past year, this couple months ago, is the $300,000 that we got from DCNR for that. So right after that easement gets done, we can go out, engineer and design permit, and hopefully make this final connection.
Super.
We had the 2022 Eastern PA Greenways and Trails Conference down here in Easton. Turnout was okay, but I think all conferences are like that right now. But we had excellent feedback about the venue. We were at the State Theater. We went to the Easton Public Market for lunch. And we were able to really walk downtown, walk by the river. And then the second day we did mobile tours that showed off the new section of the DNL in Northampton, North Caddy. We went to Catasauqua, and then they went down into Allentown to see where that whole connection's gonna go. The other one went up to the Two Rivers area, which was Bushkill, up by 512, and they checked that area out where they made the connection in through the new warehouse and the ballast track. And then they went south in Academy and Stockertown, and we'll see however that gets figured out over the years. That's one of the biggest holes in the whole GAP system. We got to figure that one out, but there's a reason why that's there like that. We had the Jerry Seifert Park dedication. I've seen many of you up there, and it was a great turnout. Rain held off to the last minute, which I was thankful for. With the Conservation District and Farmland Preservation, we did over 200, maybe 300, I don't have the exact acreage, but acreage of aerial seeding. Once again, this year we added more to it in our county parks. I know Farmland Preservation has done even more on other farms that are preserved in their system. But what that does is really put a lot of soil conservation efforts over the winter. So we put a winter rye and wheat crop down where they flew an airplane and dropped it in before they take the corn or soybean off. And over the winter, the rye and wheat will grow and hold the soil more, add more nutrients in it. So overall, it's one of those environmental restoration projects that we're trying to do, best management projects. It's really great to show it off on our properties. We did it up at our new Park Spangler Preserve, and we did it over at Wayne Grube, and we did it once again over at Graysdale Open Space in the farm fields over there. So it's great to work with our partners in that.
What are you seeding? Like what kind of seeds are they?
It's a rye or a wheat. It's called a winter cover crop.
Yeah. Okay.
We just finished up yesterday, or maybe this morning, planting our 7-acre native meadow over at Wayne Grube, out in the back where we've planted 300 some trees, possibly maybe more this year, I think. So next year, it might not look all flashy and stuff, but it's really year 2 is when it explodes with the flowers and stuff. So we're really hopeful to see that. Next spring, we'll be doing another 7 acres-ish in Louisemore Park, right behind our farmhouse, our office, where the pond is, along Country Club Road. That whole section will be redone. So it's kind of the other thing why I didn't want to jump into this resolution, because we're doing good planning over at Louisemore, and I didn't want to just say, hey, this is what we're going to do, and then have to change it 3 more times. And
Right.
we're getting really close to 10,000 native trees, plants, shrubs, and plugs that we planted just this year in our park system. I don't have the full amount, but I think we're like 9,000 some, and I might have to just go buy like 5 more and put them in just to say we got to 10,000. But and then one of our biggest accomplishments, years in the making, we finalized the last connection of the DNL Trail in Northampton and North Catasauqua, which is also part of the September 11th National Memorial Trail. So that's the final section in Northampton County. We're the second county, and I tried my hardest to not have Carbon County keep going back and with that bridge up there in Jim Thorpe, but we're the second county to finalize all of the DNL in the whole 160-mile stretch. So it's been a great accomplishment. We helped fund that with a $500,000 grant. They got PennDOT money, and they also got DCNR money to really get that project completed. So that's where I'm at with all of my updates.
And I have a question. In Louisemore Park, you planted many trees that were fruit-bearing or just not bearing. How are those going?
Good. We lost a couple. We reached back out to the growers. They came back up this fall and regrafted some and replanted some that we lost. But overall, I think maybe 10% of what we planted, which is pretty excellent for the
pretty good.
drought and things that we had to deal with over the summer.
Yeah. Did you ever find out which memorial tree passed?
I don't know. We
Still
tried to figure it out, and we don't have anything that's on file. No one really knew. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because we have others that do have plaques and things like that, and that was not one of them that did.
That's interesting. So we should make sure that all of them have plaques from now
If
on.
we have any kind of memorial dedication, either a bench or a tree, there's plaques that are involved. So
Right.
it was prior to my time, and I really don't know which one it was.
Is there any way that we could retrofit plaques for the trees that were not?
If you can get me information about what it was, where it was, and what kind, who it was for, we can work on
I
that.
love that. Carrie, we'll have to ask Kerry Myers because he's the one who mentioned,
Sure.
when the tree fell in the woods kind of thing, remember?
Well, and we don't really, and we never had any kind of written policy about our donated or memorial trees or anything like that. So it's a policy that we're working on, and over this winter, we'll finish it up. But like, where do they get placed? What types? How much does it cost? Those types of things. We've been researching other cities, towns, and how they do it. So we're coming up kind of like with a 1-2 page application, really,
Good.
that someone can do.
Good. I think that means a lot if you have a memorial tree that it is identified and identifiable, so that if something happens to it, you could replace it. And so thank you for doing that work.
Sure.
Anything else? Go ahead.
You had mentioned that there was a grant for the Saucon Rail Trail tying into Bethlehem.
You need your mic.
Excuse me. The Saucon Rail Trail tying in, did you hear anything on those grants? I believe you told me there is a grant out there they applied for.
I kind of think did we put one forth like 2 years ago or so?
I thought you told me.
I thought through Livable
Howard
Landscapes, we
Town-
awarded something.
I thought there was a group, I thought that you told me there was a group, Bethlehem and Howard Town.
I know the city of Bethlehem did reach out to me a few months ago, and that they're looking, they've put someone on to finish that connection, is what I was told. I said we can help out with all of our resources or whatever we need. I thought there was a study that we helped fund, though, that looked at Hellertown coming up through the old ironworks area to make that connection into Saucon Park. I'll reach out to Sherry. She does our grant administration with our Livable Landscapes, and I'll let you know.
Yeah, just curious. It was some time ago you had mentioned it, and just wondering.
Yeah,
That would be a critical link.
Oh, it is. It's one of like the top 4 or 5 in the Lehigh Valley right now. I mean, the Tatamy one, now that we have the Jacobsburg section going, that was its own, and the DNL was another one. So we're really kind of funneling in Easton between the Silk Mill and Crayola, like that area, that's getting its own, that's being worked out on its own. But yeah, that area needs a little bit more resources, and Sherry and I offered any help that we can do.
And it's so nice. You see the local communities are putting money and effort into it. You know, they put up, there's a couple, just on that Saucon Trail, there's 2 different places where there's bike station, workstations, just more signage, more information about what the area is, like Bingen. Nobody realized, you can go learn the history of Bingen on the trail. So, the municipalities are buying into this big time too. So it's good to see that. But I'd love to see that connect into Bethlehem. I think that would.
I would too, because that opens a lot up for us then.
Thanks, Brian.
Any other questions for Brian? Anything else that you're dying to tell us?
No, I'm good right now. Thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Tara, you're going to need to go over the Penn environment thing because it's on the agenda. You have to make a little statement on it. Okay.
I'm all over it. So Flora, if we backtrack to the report from Penn Environment, number 2, Flora Cardoni, a representative from Penn Environment, was supposed to be here with us today, but unfortunately she was exposed to COVID, and she just felt like it wasn't responsible for her to come in and potentially, when she's sick. So there's that. But she did give us the report, and it gives you a little time to read over it. I think it's very interesting because it does talk about the toxic pollution and the unfulfilled promises of the Clean Water Act. I have read over it, and one of the things that it has been the most alarming to me is that we measure these things, pollutants, at the point of discharge. So there are companies that are allowed to discharge into the waterways, and there's a certain threshold and allowable amounts of chemicals that are said to be permissible. But the problem is, in measuring the cumulative impacts of everything going into the waterways, we have a lot of toxins. The ones that I'm really alarmed about are the PFAS and the PFOAs, which are the forever chemicals that come from like Teflon, DuPont. They also come from foam, fire retardants, and things like that. And those are the chemicals that they're bioaccumulates, and they get into your system and they don't go away. You just keep accumulating them. So if you continue to drink the water, you're going to continue to accumulate them. I think it's our duty to make sure that our waters are clean, and I just wanted to be able to have Flora here today. Unfortunately, she's going to be here in November now to present the findings, and hopefully at that same time, we will also have a gentleman from the Sierra Club who is part of a group that is monitoring the waterways, and I think you can remember that Greg Zabrowski and his crew are here. They're all doing the air pollution. They're a community group, citizen group that is monitoring airways. It's good to know that the Sierra Club is also trying to monitor our waterways and trying to measure the discharge and the chemicals that are going into it. So I'm looking forward to that in November. All right, hopefully you can read this by then, right? You got a month. That's your assignment, right? Yeah, class isn't over yet, but what's the other thing? Oh, and we were supposed to have a discussion regarding low-volume dirt and gravel roads from the conservation districts. Again, unfortunately, or fortunately for John Mouser, he's in Kentucky with his grandkids, and who can begrudge a guy that, and so he was not able to join us today. Again, we will try to put that on the agenda in November. Are there any other questions? All right, great. Thank you so much for coming today. I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Awesome. Short and sweet. I didn't think you were going to be here today. That's right. What's wrong with you? 3 in the morning?
To drive 5 hours to Cabo, and then drive a plane back in here around 2 to the, but the best